The incredible rise of the Boston Celtics. Every major American sports league has a flagship franchise that's known as the one with the most success when it comes to championship runs, and much like the New York Yankees or the Green Bay Packers are on their respective leagues, the Boston Celtics are on the cusp of the NBA with 17 titles. However, while the storied franchise was one of the most dominating teams from the late 50s until the late 80s and won 16 of their championships along the way, including a streak of 8 consecutive championships from 1959 to 1966, they've only managed to add one title to their collection over the last 3 decades. But now, despite a few disappointing seasons in the last few years, the organization has put together a cast of young and veteran stars that could finally take them back into contention for many years to come in, perhaps even before we expect them to. Welcome to Courtside. Today, we'll take a look at how the Celtics built one of the strongest rosters in the league and how there's a chance that banner number 18 might be coming sooner rather than later. The last time the Celtics had a championship parade was in 2008 when their big three, composed of Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen, had just helped them complete the biggest turnaround season in league history and defeated the Los Angeles Lakers to claim the Larry O'Brien Trophy. They made it back to the finals in 2010 in a rematch against the Lakers, but their rivals avenged their previous loss by winning the title in a deciding Game 7. Following that season, Boston had a chance to return to the finals in 2012 when they had a 3-2 series lead in the Eastern Conference Finals against the LeBron James-led Miami Heat. However, they would end up losing the series and things were about to get worse for the team. Following the loss, Allen left in free agency, and after a disappointing season in which they were eliminated in the first round, management decided to push the rebuild button and start prepping for the future. In the 2013 offseason, the team allowed coach Doc Rivers to go to the Los Angeles Clippers and traded away Paul Pierce and Garnett to the Brooklyn Nets for a package of future draft picks that would later help them to build their current squad. Shortly after, they signed Butler University head coach Brad Stevens to become Rivers' replacement, another move that would become crucial for their future. The first year under Stevens had an expected mediocre result. The team finished with a 25-57 record and missed the playoffs for the first time since 2007. However, their poor performance would be rewarded with the 6th pick in the 2014 draft, which they used to select Marcus Smart. In the next year, they continued to struggle and had a 20-31 record before the All-Star break, but they were still within striking distance of the East's 8th seed. And following the acquisition of Isaiah Thomas, the Celtics managed to finish with a 40-42 record and return to the playoffs as the 7th seed. Despite being swept in the first round by the Cleveland Cavaliers, the team was encouraged by the play of Thomas, who finished second in voting for the 6th Man of the Year award. In the following season, he became the team's full-time starting point guard and had a career year, being named as a reserve to the All-Star team and leading the Celtics to a 48-34 record in the 5th seed in the playoffs. Though they were again defeated in the first round, this time by the Hawks, their improvement helped attract All-Star forward Al Horford, who signed a deal with the team during the offseason, and with the 3rd pick in the draft, courtesy of the Nets, they selected Jaylen Brown. With Horford leading the defense and Thomas taking his game to an MVP level, the Celtics continued their rise and finished with the best record in the Eastern Conference. Boston reached the conference finals. However, a hip injury limited Thomas to only 2 games, and the team was defeated by the Cavs in 5 games. That year's offseason became one of the busiest for the team. First, they earned the first selection in the upcoming draft and decided to trade down in exchange for future picks. With the 3rd pick, they selected Duke forward Jason Tatum. They also acquired All-Star forward Gordon Hayward in free agency, who had been coached by Stevens during his time in college, and traded Thomas to the Cavaliers in exchange for All-Star point guard Kyrie Irving. With 3 All-Stars in Horford, Hayward, and Irving, 3 promising young players in Smart, Brown, and Tatum, and one of the best coaches in the league in Stevens, the Celtics were immediately expected to become championship contenders. However, during opening night, Hayward suffered a devastating leg injury that would force him to miss the whole season, and Irving would also be ruled out on the later stages of the season following a procedure in his left knee. Without their 2 best players, the team was expected to have a short-lived postseason run, but behind the emergence of Tatum and Brown, they surprised everyone by returning to the conference finals and pushing the Cavaliers to a Game 7. With the young players' development and the return of Hayward and Irving, the Celtics were expected to dominate the league in the following year. However, as the season progressed, it became evident that the team was struggling to manage all its stars, and amid several rumors that suggested chemistry issues in the locker room, they failed to perform as the team they were expected to be. Their win total regressed from 55 to 49 as they finished with the 4th seed, and while a dominant first-round sweep over the Indiana Pacers seemed to indicate that they had been able to flip the switch for the playoffs, 4 straight losses in the second round against the Bucks proved otherwise. Following the disappointing conclusion to their season, Irving, who was frustrated with the team, and Horford, who was looking for a more lucrative deal than the one the Celtics offered, decided to depart in free agency to the Nets and Sixers, respectively. General Manager Danny Ainge made quick maneuvering to replace the veteran stars with Kemba Walker, who became fascinated with the opportunity to play for the team as soon as they showed interest in him. Still, after being humbled by their previous year, Boston's expectations were lower as they understood that they'd have to deal with an adjusting period to integrate Walker and assign new roles to Hayward, Tatum, Brown, and Smart. However, Kemba proved to be a game changer as he had a widely different approach to the team than Kyrie did. From the first day, the All-Star point guard talked about how it would be the young players, and specifically Tatum and Brown, who would take the Celtics to a new level. As the season progressed, he backed his words with actions, constantly deferring to the duo and pushing them to become better every day. As a result, the team's chemistry took a huge leap forward and the players were noticeably happy to play for each other, which led to better results despite many of them missing time because of injuries. By the time of the All-Star break, the young players were enjoying the best season of their careers, and Tatum was selected as an All-Star along with Walker, while Brown also received serious consideration. By the time of the season's suspension, they had a 43-21 record, and when the seeding games and the bubble started, they had some of their best performances as they prepped for the playoffs and finished with a 48-23 record. Brown finished the season with averages of 20.3 points, 6.4 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and 1.1 steals per game, while Tatum finished with 23.4 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1.4 steals per game. Walker and Hayward, for their part, also finished with incredible numbers, and Smart was named to the All-Defensive First Team for the second straight year. However, as they started their playoff run against the Philadelphia 76ers, Hayward was lost to injury, and though the Sixers were also without a key player in Ben Simmons, most people expected the series to be a highly competitive one. Still, Boston showed how far they had come as a team as they swept the Sixers without too much trouble. In the series, Tatum led the way with 27 points and 9.8 rebounds per game, while Kemba had a couple of clutch performances that showed the importance of having a veteran leader in the team. So far, they've continued their impressive play in an excellent but much more competitive second-round series against the Toronto Raptors, which has been called by some as the Atlantic Division Finals. And they've done so by playing their best on the defensive end of the court. Throughout the playoffs, the Celtics have led the league in most of the defensive metrics so far. They're currently first in defensive rating, points allowed, opponent shooting percentage, and opponent three-point shooting percentage, which has been evident in a series against the Raptors that hasn't looked pretty most of the time. But still, their defensive dominance, multiple sources of scoring, excellent chemistry, and star power have them on the verge of making their third conference finals appearance in 4 years. If they manage to get there, they'll face against the Heat in a rematch of the 2012 series that could very well become one of the most intriguing matchups in these year's playoffs. And while they're trying to focus on the task at hand at the moment, they certainly believe that this is the year in which banner number 18 could finally be raised in the TD Garden. But regardless of what ends up taking place with the Celtics during the rest of the season, there's one thing that we can be sure about. They're here to stay for a long time. Altogether, the Boston Celtics are one of the most renowned franchises in all of sports. Their history is one of the best in NBA. While they've had few moments to celebrate in the last few decades, it looks like the time is finally here for them to regain their place among the league's elite teams. With Hayward and Walker in their prime, Smart, Tatum, and Brown's best years still ahead of them, and with the duo of Ainge and Stevens leading the way from the front office and the sidelines, respectively, it looks like many years of glory are about to come to Beantown. What about you? You think the Celtics are ready to be a championship contender? Or are they still a piece or two away from contention? Let us know in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, remember to like it and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content. We are Courtside.